Hello, Azatutun TV's guest today is ex-president of Slovenia Danilo Türk. Mr. Türk, thank you for finding time for Azatutun. Before going to my main questions, will you please tell us what's the main purpose of your visit to Armenia?
Well, there are several purposes. One of them is to interact, to work with the organizations of civil society in Armenia to see how this democratic transformation is going. You must understand that in Europe generally, the revolution in Armenia came as a very big news. Everybody watched TV, everybody saw these big rallies that happened, everybody followed the elections, the 70% majority which was won by the new political leadership. And also we understood that there are many women involved. On TV this was very clearly visible. So the question is now how this mobilization that happened a short while ago will continue. How will the revolution continue? And that's very interesting, and that involves also questions of how the outside world should be connected with the civil society organizations, with government, political parties, and all that. So Armenia is an
reforms, etc.
Exactly. Now Armenia has become an additionally interesting place. So I'm sure that many visitors come and they are very curious to figure out how is this whole process going and what the partnerships are likely to be and what are the new opportunities.
I know that this is your second visit to Armenia.
Yes.
When was the first one and why did you came to Armenia?
Well, the first one was 9 years ago when I was president, and the first visit was actually the first visit ever of a Slovenian president in Armenia. So we were at that time establishing basic contacts with other countries. Both Slovenia and Armenia became independent states about the same time, and then we developed our relations to a presidential visit about when I was president. And then, of course, I visited the memorial, I paid respect to the victims of the great tragedy, the genocide against Armenian people, and I planted a tree. That was 9 years ago. And this time when I came, I'm no longer president, so I'm interested in transformations in Armenia. But I also visited the memorial, and I looked how my tree is growing, and so it was a special event for me.
Mr. Türk, you were the president of Slovenia from 2007 to 2012.
Yes.
Armenia, as you know, changed its constitution recently and became a parliamentary republic. Yes. And now many people in Armenia don't know what to expect from the Armenian president exactly. So my question is, what was your role in Slovenia and what do you consider your biggest accomplishment during your presidency?
Well, the role of the president who does not have executive powers is of course special. The president is not expected to take decisions on taxes, for example, on important economic or political developments which belong to the government and the parliament. But the president has to have views on important issues and has to be able to articulate those views when people expect that. People always look to the president and ask, well, what will he, or in the case of a woman president, what would she say vis-a-vis such and such question? So it's important in the public opinion making, and in democracies this function of the president must be taken very seriously. So doing things publicly, showing where the future is, guiding with leadership which is expressed in public statements is very important. As far as the accomplishments are concerned, I think in my own experience, the main thing was working with neighbor countries. So with Italy, with which we have very rich and sometimes complicated history, I had a very good interlocutor at that time, President Napolitano, and we worked together to overcome some of the burdens from history. Slovenians suffered during fascist rule in Italy. Part of Slovenia was occupied by Italy during World War II, and all that has left really bitter memories. So we worked together to improve our understanding and to explain to the people that history is history and our future is common future in Europe. And I think that we have gone quite far in that understanding. So that I would consider my best achievement.
As you know, last year in 2018, Armenia and the EU signed the Comprehensive and Enhanced Partnership Agreement.
Yes.
And many people in Armenia hope that this agreement will help Armenia develop deeper, maybe, relations with the EU. What do you think? What exactly can Armenia expect from this agreement? Will it actually change the relations of Armenia and the EU?
Very importantly, and I would emphasize this, very importantly, Armenia should show initiative. Armenia should understand that European Union is also in the process of change. European Union is going to have very important elections of the European Parliament. There will be a new commission, a European Commission, and it would be very good if the government of Armenia was able to present their own requests, their own priorities early enough to explain to the European Union, all right, we now have a degree of experience in our communication, in our cooperation, but here is what we want. Here is the type of engagement we want with the European Union. And all that has to be connected, I believe, with the whole transformation of economy, with strengthening of democracy, and with the kind of investment that Armenia legitimately expects from European Union. Once again, don't wait for European Union to offer. Go to European Union and demand.
So EU officials say that after elections in Europe, Armenia maybe can start negotiations about visa liberalization.
Yes.
And do you think that the Armenian government should put a lot of effort into these possible negotiations, to start the negotiations?
Oh yes, I think it should. I mean, here the experience of Georgia will be very important. I remember...
So do you think Armenia also has a chance like Georgia?
I think so, yes. I mean, of course, now people understand that this liberalization brings certain problems, but those problems can be solved, and the experience of how problems with visa liberalization are resolved between European Union and Georgia can be of great benefit to Armenia also, because then European Union is no longer afraid of something unknown. European Union would know how to organize, to manage the movement in the best possible way. And I think the principle which should be defended absolutely is freedom of movement. If you want to belong to a family, you have to move freely within the family. And then if there are problems with some people moving, then you have to focus on that, not preventing the general population from the freedom of movement. And the experience that exists between Georgia and European Union can be helpful to avoid problems, or if the problems arise, to resolve them.
You know, Armenia did not sign the association agreement like Georgia did, and some experts in Armenia say that because of this, Armenia might not get the visa liberalization.
Yeah. Well, look, I mean, I would not exclude anything. Now you are having a fresh start. You just accomplished the political phase of revolution in Armenia, so that should be understood with the European Union as well. We are not talking about the same situation as it was 2 years ago. This is a new situation. And in the new situation, you have to approach this question with a fresh mind. Mm-hmm. And that relates again to something I said before. Armenia should come with proposals. Visa liberalization clearly should be one of them, in my opinion. Of course, it is for your government to decide what your proposals will be.
For Nikol Pashinyan's
yeah, but as I would repeat, if you belong to a family, you have to move within the family. You can't be a bit outside the family and belong to the family at the same moment.
So as we talked about the revolution in Armenia, and then after the revolution, elections happened in Armenia. And yesterday, the 5-year program of Armenian government yesterday won the confidence vote in parliament. And the Prime Minister of Armenia, Nikol Pashinyan, speaks a lot about economic revolution. And he says that his main goal and his government's main goal now is to do an economic revolution. And he adds that people, first of all, should do this revolution in their minds and start working harder and more.
Yeah.
So there are situations in Armenia like this, that some people can refuse a job offer when the salary is very low, and they could prefer to stay at home and not having a job that pays them very little. Do you think a situation like this could happen in Slovenia?
It is happening in Slovenia.
Is it right from the Nikol Pashinyan's position to encourage people to take the jobs even if the working hours are not the best and the salary is not good?
Yeah, well, look, I think that the Prime Minister is correct in encouraging people to, to face the situation and to be active, to work. That's, as a basic position, perfectly understandable, and we have the same situation, really. I mean, not necessarily in terms of the actual income of people, but clearly the problem of work which is not paid very well, and the social transfers which help people who are unemployed,
yes,
that balance is not easy to strike. What I would add to the position of the Prime Minister would be the following. Focus on women and young people, because they are the big reserve everywhere. We have seen this in Slovenia also, because the flexibility which is needed is likely to be on the side of the young people. They are more flexible in general. But of course you have to give a kind of a promise that their situation will improve gradually. Equally with women, I think women should take an increasing role in employment and also in decision-making in businesses. So that's another priority which should not be neglected. I know that these things sound perhaps a little general, but our experience has shown that one has to rely on female workforce and on young people, and that gradually one has to improve social situation as well. So, in other words, non-discrimination, inclusion of women, complete application of international labor standards, that should be part of policy, and that policy should be kind of determined. Things will not happen overnight, clearly, but if you have these priorities clearly defined, they are likely to happen more quickly, and you are likely to transform your economy better. We've seen, I mean, there is no point in reconstructing old industries, old manufacturing. What we have to do in Slovenia, we are doing this with great understanding now after 20 years. You know, we need to be better in high-tech industries. We need to be better in as parts of the global supply chain. For example, in automobile industry, and nobody constructs the whole automobile. There is a global supply chain, and we have to find a place there, and we are trying to do that. And then, obviously, how to combine manufacturing and tourism, for example. The potential of the tourism has to be explored. Internet and digital economy provide enormous opportunities. We have a huge growth of tourism, because now people can access information about the country individually via internet.
What impressions are you taking from Armenia to home with you?
I would say that energy. There is energy in this city. I mean, I'm only in Yerevan. I don't know everything, and I think that this energy which you can sense when you walk in the city, when you talk to people, when you engage in a conversation on open questions, that energy should be utilized now. It should not be lost. You know, governments, of course, always have a problem, because the expectations have to be managed, they have to be put in relation to the actual performance. So these coming years will be very demanding for the government, and the important thing is to really use the energy that now exists, open the opportunities, the space to people in very various areas, and then transform economy and transform society. That would be my big impression here.
Mr. Türk, thank you for finding time for this interview. My guest today at Azatution TV was ex-president of Slovenia Danilo Türk.